you're stuck in a wall. Basically, you're just facing your negative thoughts, anything in your life that is causing you unhappiness or causing you to not sleep well at night, to not have good mental state.
Guys, the prompt is the next thing. If you're not on, get on, okay?
All right, let's talk about therapy. Like what kind of environment do you try to create, when working with clients? And then, some people would be like skeptical, like, wouldn't I hear this on the news tomorrow or somewhere, but you read the good point. Could you elaborate on that,
Yeah. With therapy, one thing everyone should know is us as mental health professionals, it's very strict. We have to keep everything confidential. So we cannot even risk anything to release anyone's information. So I know that's something that a lot of people struggle with. That's like trust, or trusting that someone will keep your information private. But one thing everyone out there should know is with therapists, because we're professional and this is like our career, this is our training. We are trained to keep everything confidential. And if we do not keep it confidential, we risk losing everything. This is like losing our title, our everything. So everything we went to school for, our foundation is built on laws that protect people's information, people that we work with, that protect people. So we can't even risk all that, risking our whole career, by releasing anyone's information. Everything is very confidential. The only exception with things that we can release, like information about a client, is if a client possesses a threat to hurt themselves, like suicide or just self-harm, or hurting someone else. So like murder, stuff like that, we do have to report. We're mandated reporters to report those, because that's a risk to yourself or someone else. But everything else we keep confidential. And I think there's also exceptions when it comes to like issues of abuse and rape to minors. That stuff we do definitely have to say something, because also that's harm being done to a minor or a child. So we definitely have strict laws to keep every information private. So people should not even worry about their information going out to anyone, because it's very, very strict. We can never take out any information to anyone about clients. So yeah. So if anyone is thinking of therapy, do not be afraid. It is super, super confidential. It's very, very safe and helpful. So yes.
I also asked you a question, like, okay, like let's say if one breaks their privileges here and then they want to go into another country and work there, you gave me some good pointers, So I'd like for you to share.
To share that. So for example, I'm a therapist in Zambia.
Yeah.
And then I do something bad, or I'm fired or disbanded, right?
Yeah.
And then I move to the US and I'm like, you know what? I can be a doctor here.
Yeah.
No way. It doesn't work like that. It kind of is. It works the same way. Because even if I come here and then I say, I want to be a therapist here, I still have to either go through school for some of the courses, and I have to transfer my credit or give a history of what I've done. So even where I work, for example, I have to transfer that information here. So if I transfer that to them, I've already been banned. So I was fired. There's no way. They'll know. They'll be like, but how did you, how? Wait, it doesn't make sense. It shows that you were fired. It shows that you did something. So it's on your record. And the process is not as easy as it may seem, because if I am licensed in Zambia, I'm only licensed in that region, in Zambia. If I move to the US, let's say I move here to Kentucky, I have to be licensed in Kentucky to be a therapist. So I can't just start being a therapist. I need that license, that paper to say, okay, now I am licensed here. So that whole process, they'll probably find out. So yeah,
Uh,
it's a whole process to become a therapist, or just to transfer and move and become a therapist. Like, I know it doesn't work like that. So yeah, I don't think I've even heard of that situation yet.
okay.
So
People
yeah,
are creative, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
people are, yeah. But yeah, there's even if they move here, the laws even here are super strict, because if you did that on purpose there, it means you may do it again. So they'll still catch you if you're doing something illegal. But you really can't play with, people's information, and it's basically like a doctor, to be honest. So yeah, the laws are very strict, and yeah, it is definitely super, super
Okay.
confidential. So yeah.
Let's talk about, relationships. How does mental health affect the relationship between other people? Because others think that, oh, it's just the person, but also maybe your significant other and stuff like that.
Yes, another good question. It has everything to do with mental health. Everything. Think about this. If you're with someone that just makes you happy, let's say we're talking about like spousal or like relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend,
Yeah.
fiance, yes.
Yeah.
Already it's doing something to you inside. If they make you happy, they make you like a better person. It,
Mhm.
it helps your mental health, your mental well-being. You constantly be happy, you constantly be in good mood. So that's good for you. But when things go bad, that also affects your mental health. You're
Yeah.
not sleeping, you're
Mhm.
not eating. If you break up, if the person cheats or anything negative that happens, it will definitely affect your mental health.
Mhm.
And if someone, let's say your spouse or something is struggling with a mental illness, so maybe like depression
Mhm.
or something more serious, very, very serious, like maybe schizophrenia, it's going to also affect you because you're a caregiver. And we always stress that caregivers also get therapy or mental health care, because whatever your person is dealing with, be it a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever they're dealing with would definitely affect you. You also be tired, you'll be exhausted, and there's that stress that comes from being a caregiver or being a spouse of someone that's dealing with a mental health issue. So you both definitely need some help. And this also goes along with families, friends. You may have a best friend or a close friend struggling, and you're helping them deal with what they're struggling with. It will also affect you.
Mhm.
You may have a child or a parent or a sibling going through something, and you're there taking care of them, or you're there working through that struggle with them. It
Mhm.
will definitely affect you as well. So we also advise anyone in that relationship with that person or whoever, to also get help,
Yeah.
because it's very important as well.
Okay. Speaking about getting help, everyone is like, now, we've heard everything that you have to say, and then now
Mhm.
for who in Zambia, like, is there such a thing in Zambia or something, or in Africa, and then
Yeah.
if they're in the States or somewhere, how can they, proceed?
Yeah. Yes. Now we have more mental health professionals in Zambia, a lot more now. And I think the best way for people to find a therapist, and like I said before, I don't even think I mentioned it today, but you don't have to have a mental illness to see a therapist. You really do not have to have a mental. You can actually be fine and have no issues at all
Yeah.
and go see a therapist.
Mhm.
I have a therapist who is amazing. She's African.
Mhm.
I provide mental health help to people, but I also get for myself too.
Mhm.
And it just helps you just take care of yourself. It's basically like getting a medical checkup,
Mhm.
with therapy. So if you're in Zambia and you're thinking, you know what, this is the time that I can actually talk to someone professional, maybe dealing with friendship issues, relationship issues, or maybe dealing with nothing. Maybe you just need to talk to someone,
Mhm.
just help you think through maybe life decisions, maybe you have to make career-wise. a therapist is super, super awesome in helping you plan out your life as well, like maybe what you want to do. So you can always Google, search on Google, therapist near me in Lusaka, or therapist in Kitwe, in Dola, or wherever people are, a therapist in South Africa, Joburg. And they pop up. I actually tried it once, even here, and they pop up. Zambia, I typed in one time, like therapist in Lusaka. There's different practices or agencies. People have opened different agencies. So you can always Google who's near you, or you can actually go to hospitals or clinics as well. They tend to have information as well on therapists that they know, because we work in conjunction or in collaboration with doctors, medical professionals. Yeah, so they definitely have therapists, a lot of therapists. And Elevate just started. I actually had her on my show last week. So she just opened her new practice. That's another great agency. If you're in Lusaka, Elevate Wellness. And there's Renaissance. There's so many right now, actually. So you can actually just Google. You can Facebook. I mean, we always talk against googling your symptoms. Imagine you're going through something and then you Google what is the medicine for not sleeping well or something. And Google give you something that's broad for everybody, not something specifically for you. So with therapy, they're giving you help specifically for you. So that way you don't get the wrong medication or the wrong information that is maybe not even for you. So yes, there's so many ways. And asking questions, Google, ask questions, write it on Facebook, anyone know a therapist, or ask someone that you can trust, that you know maybe may have that information. There's definitely ways to get help. So yes.
I asked you an interesting question. This is just a fun question.
Okay.
Like, why does America have a name for everything? Like, back home we're like, okay, you have a headache, but then they're like, oh, you have a migraine, you have. Up to today, I don't know what a migraine is. Like, for example,
that's a good question. I used to think about that before I moved here. I used to think like, man, there's so many diseases, there's all these mental health issues, like so many names. But to be honest, after now, like being here and even just being now in this field, I understand why they have so many names. I think they take time to actually research on situations or sicknesses, illnesses, symptoms. They've done so much research on these cases that they've kind of separated things on basically on their own symptoms. So someone having a headache and someone maybe going through stress from school and then having a headache, or someone having migraines, they're totally different things. So they kind of want to help people specifically on what they're dealing with. But symptoms can look the same, but they're different. So same thing when it comes to, like, for example, with mental health, someone with a symptom of depression can look similar to someone with a symptom of anxiety, which they're totally different. And the help you can get can be similar but different. Sometimes if it's extreme and you're put on medication, you have the medication are also different. For anxiety, for bipolar, depression, they're very, very different. So I think they actually stress to make sure that people are getting the right help that they need by figuring out what exactly is going on with them. So they have to have different names. There should be different categories. So yeah.
Okay, and then for somebody who's trying to warm up to the idea, in the meantime, what are coping skills? How would you define that, and how important are they in their everyday life?
Their life. Like with for example, with therapy, it's not free. It's not always that it's free. So that's a good point that you raise. Especially if you're like back home and maybe you don't have enough money and you need help, or you just need something to help you cope everyday life. you can now practice those coping skills. And basically, coping skills are what we all do these things every day. These are things that we do or we learn to do to help us cope with whatever stresses we are going through, cope with breakups, cope with anything negative happening in your life. So you can think of, for me, I always use myself as an example. My favorite, or some of my favorite coping skills are listening to music. If I'm having a stressful day, I'm just down that day, I'll put on some music, and within minutes, my mood will be elevated. I'll feel so much better. So these are things that you just do to just help you cope, to help you feel better, to help your mental health or your mental state just go from negative to positive. So I can think, maybe I can ask you, what is something that you like to do that maybe on a day that you're down kind of helps you feel better?
You put me on spot.
I'm putting you on spot.
For me, ever since I was young, I've always been a fan of movies, because it's like you're seeing a perspective of somebody else's life, and then you're like, okay, maybe my life is not as messed up as I think it is. So, I better do something about how I'm feeling. And,
yes.
and of course, I have trusted people that I talk to on a frequent,
Yes, those are really, really good. Actually, I love that example of the movies or shows, because that helps you appreciate what you have. That's a good coping skill. That's a good coping strategy. I love that. And talking to friends, yes. Talking to family or people that you really do trust. Those are really, really good. So yeah, basically those are your coping strategies. Those are your coping skills. And we actually try to encourage people to practice those things every day, to watch a movie if that's what makes you happy. I mean, you don't have to sit and watch movies the whole day, but to watch a movie, maybe one movie.
Everything has limits, and watching movies the whole day, I feel like I'm going dumb or something. I need
exactly
up or something,
Yes. So there's definitely a balance, yes.
Yeah.
But practicing, even if it's one a day or two, something that just can help you just stay afloat and stay happy and positive. So yeah, it's encouraged. And those are your coping skills. If you can't afford a therapist, that's something. Even with or without a therapist will definitely encourage you to practice your coping skills anyways. So yeah.
So any last words, like dun, this is the end. Any last words, and where can people reach you?
Last words. I always try to remind people to take care of themselves and their story. Your story is important. Your life is important, and you are not alone. Most of the times we go by thinking we're alone, especially in our community where we really don't share about our feelings or how we're feeling or how we're thinking. It's important that we start voicing those out. Talking to someone you trust, like you said, talking to a therapist. Maybe this is your time to be like, you know what, I'm going to see a therapist, and you don't have to tell anyone about that. Maybe this is your time, but just remember that you're important, your story is important, and keep telling your stories. Start writing letters to yourself. Could be sitting down and writing a letter to your young self or your older self, So yeah. And to reach me, I have Facebook. I reopened my Facebook. And yeah, you can reach me on Instagram or Facebook at Malaika's Corner. Or Malaika's Corner podcast, or I can also send my email to you. So if anyone wants to reach me by email, that's okay as well.
Thank you everybody for watching. If you need any advice from any of us, you can reach me on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook. And thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I don't want it.